Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Azam Khan. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. The government declares Hong Kong has largely returned to normality after floods and landslides wreaked havoc over the weekend. Landslide at Redhill Peninsula triggers official investigation for land lease breaches. Thousands of students across Hong Kong will have to attend remote lessons tomorrow after their campuses were damaged by floods last week. But the government says most roads which were closed will reopen just in time before commuters head to work. Janice Lowe reports.
In a show of confidence, the government announced that Hong Kong has largely returned to normality following widespread damage from floods and landslides. It added 177 schools were damaged by floods or clogged drains following record rainfall last week. Students from 10 schools were told to attend classes virtually tomorrow as their campuses are still undergoing repairs. Border crossings at Heung Yuen Wai and Man Kam To would remain suspended tomorrow due to power failure. As a result, around 330 cross-border students have to make their way back to campus through alternative means. Transport Minister Lam Sai-hung pointed out workers have completed repair works for 80 roads over the weekend. 5 other roads will partially reopen tomorrow, but Yu Hing Road in Shek O will remain sealed off for some time because of the massive landslide near Mount Parker. Development Chief Bernadette Lin said authorities have received 75 reports of landslides and 21 are still being handled. Janice Lowe, HKIBC.
There was relief for villagers in Shek O after road traffic resumed following 2 days of emergency repairs. But some decided to stay away for now, fearing they could run into trouble commuting to work or school. Raymond Young reports.
2 days after landslides and subsiding roads cut off Shek O from the rest of Hong Kong, people could once again reach the seaside village through public transport. City Bus resumed service for its Route 9 between the rural community and Shek O. The first departure at 6 a.m. had around half a dozen passengers on board. With conditions along the winding Shek O road remaining treacherous, only single-deckers were deployed. Motorists in opposite directions had to take turns passing through certain sections where repair works were still underway. After reaching the terminus, it was time for the bus to take villagers to urban areas. This man who was heading out for groceries said he was running low on food. The road closure also meant that waste collection trucks were unable to reach the area for the past 2 days. Fearing more traffic chaos in the coming days, some villagers chose to temporarily move elsewhere and left by sea transport. But others who stayed behind were busy cleaning up the beach, picking up loads of marine rubbish washed ashore during the rainstorm. With beachgoers and tourists gone, eateries relied on business from locals instead. Government workers also delivered food and supplies to those in need. Raymond Yang, HKIBC.
Occupants from a luxury house in Tai Tam were ordered to evacuate after a slope underneath it collapsed. The house owner and neighbors now face more trouble for allegedly breaching land regulations. Janice Lowe has the story.
The heaviest rainstorm in over a century triggered landslides across Hong Kong. That included the exclusive Redhill Peninsula development in Tai Tam. 3 houses, number 70, 72, and 74, were in danger after a slope directly underneath them collapsed. House 72 was slapped with an evacuation order, as government engineers found it to be especially at risk. Occupants for houses 70 and 74 were allowed to stay, provided they seal off exposed areas near the coastline. A lounger which used to sit by the pool was ready to plunge into the ocean anytime. While the soil was likely washed away by recent downpours, the incident exposed issues years in the making. Records from the Lands Department suggest that the houses had illegally expanded outside their permitted boundaries.
Many private developments, in one way or the other, has to do somewhere outside their lot boundaries, including cutting away, excavation, or filling. In many land title documents, there are conditions clearly states that if the private development affects adjoining government land, they may be held responsible for the stability, maintenance, and safety of the land.
Chen said the slope could cost millions of dollars to repair.
Accessibility problem could add another 50% to the actual cost. There's no road access from the bottom, this is the sea, and the top is a row of buildings. There's no direct access from the joining road to the field slope.
The engineer believed that there are 4 so-called wet spots at the top of the landslide scarp, and these must be cut off to prevent further soil erosion. Development Secretary Bernadette Lin pledged to institute prosecution against the house owners, although that is not the government's priority.
Our initial evidence shows that there is indeed some breach of the leases and also unlawful occupation. But our primary focus at the present moment is to stabilize the slope to ensure public safety.
She added reinforcement work for the slope will begin in the coming days. Janice Low, HKIBC.
The racing season kicked off with a bang at the Shatin racecourse this afternoon. The wet weather did dampen the spirits of many who would have normally made it to the racecourse on opening day. But there was still a steady stream of punters who gradually got there as the races progressed. Jockey Club Chairman Michael Lee officially got the season underway by striking the gong. Turnover was down 8% from previous years to $1.3 billion. Turning overseas, more than 2,000 people are now confirmed dead after a powerful earthquake struck Morocco on Friday. Rescue and relief efforts are still underway, but the mountainous terrain and the remote location of the epicenter are making things difficult. Sachin Khatri reports.
Rescue efforts continued in southwestern Morocco following a powerful 7.2 magnitude earthquake late Friday night. Villages high up in the Atlas Mountains near the epicenter were completely flattened. Many of the injured had to be airlifted to hospital for treatment. Help and aid has trickled to some villages, with rescuers working through the night to look for survivors. Fatna, a resident from a hamlet in Hous province, recalled she was sleeping when the quake struck. She was trapped after the roof collapsed, but was lucky enough to be rescued by neighbors who dug with their bare hands. The city of Marrakesh, which is roughly 70 kilometers from the epicenter, also suffered severe damage. Many buildings of historical significance stood the test of time, but not the tremor. But life went on amid the destruction, and people made their way through the rubble, trying to come to terms with the disaster. In Shishawa, one of the worst-hit provinces, rescue workers ferried survivors and the injured non-stop to hospitals overnight. Most medical facilities were overwhelmed. There have been no reports of survivors being pulled out alive so far. But emergency workers are not giving up hope just yet. It was also a time for communities to stick together and show solidarity to grieving families who lost their loved ones. Mass burials were held at a remote village near the city of Ouarzazate. But many people remain unaccounted for, and the death toll, which exceeded 2,000 at last count, would certainly go up in the coming days. Sachin Khatri, HKIBC.
On to the weather now. Mostly cloudy, and the showers tomorrow may pour heavy at times. Temperatures will range between 25 and 28 degrees. The downpour should lessen gradually, and the sun will come out in the following few days. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Sunday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Azam Khan. Thanks for watching. Good night.